Cartoon Network is without a doubt the pinnacle of 4 decades of childhoods, providing new and unique cartoons the world had never seen the likes of. Every single show that released was far different from the last. Unique and fun characters, interesting and wacky plots, and stories that have never been told before. But Cartoon Network is not without flaw. For every great cartoon, there's a bad one. Today I am going to look at the 4 decades of Cartoon Network's existence and decipher which era is definitively the worst. Before I start the video, I don't think I look quite right. I said, that seems better. Cartoon Network only has 2 full decades, being the 2000s and the 2010s. They began in 1993, so the 90s has 3 years less, and we're only halfway in the 2020s, so they're missing 4 years. However, we're halfway through the halfway point, and I think it's fair enough to count them. I'm not going to play dumb. You've seen the thumbnail. The worst era of Cartoon Network is the 2000s, but let me explain how I came to that conclusion. Now let me get this out of the way. I have a video on the best era of Cartoon Network, and I decree the 2010s is the best decade. It is both my objective and biased answer. Yes, I grew up in that era, but at the same time, the shows are fantastic. Without wasting much time on this decade, it offered Adventure Time, Regular Show, The Amazing World of Gumball, Steven Universe, We Bare Bears, Ninjago. Like, I can stop right there. That's how good it was. Each of those shows ran for a majority of the decade without really dropping in quality, and clearly they're popular enough to still all be receiving reboots right now as this video is being made. Even the bad shows of this decade do not outweigh the good, not by a long shot. OK KO, Uncle Grandpa, Teen Titans Go, Clarence, certainly not the greatest, but they are palatable. Unlike the really, really bad ones like Problem Solvers and Secret Mountain Fort Awesome. Disgusting art, poop humor, just don't get me started. I'm really condensing this era, not even talking about certain ones like Infinity Train and the Ben 10 shows, but that's because I've already gone over that in more depth. The 90s are not the worst era. It has multiple shows so good they've been cemented into pop culture forever. Ed, Edd and Eddy, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, Courage the Cowardly Dog, they're all regarded in such high regard. I think I said that wrong. I'm tempted to include Cow and Chicken up there with them. I don't know if the show deserves that, but general consensus probably would. My own personal opinion coming in, it's definitely not anywhere near those other shows. The decade only had around 11 or so shows. It's kind of like when the teacher hands you a 5-question test, and you better believe you need to answer all of those correct to pass. Smaller sample size, the larger impact one bad show has. 5 shows I've already listed as great, leaving these. The Moxie show is essentially lost media. Watching what exists of this feels like looking at abandoned malls. Very ingenuitive for what it was, being an early CGI motion capture, but this is like barely a show, so I'm not really even going to count it. Space Ghost is just Adult Swim, so if I'm giving Moxie a pass to not even be considered, this gets it too. And while we're at it, remove What a Cartoon from the list because it's shorts, not a complete cartoon, leaving I Am Weasel and Mike, Lou and Og. I Am Weasel is great value Cow and Chicken, and Mike, Lou and Og is boring. Very boring. Kinda like a slice of life show, but on an island with wild natives. It doesn't even compare to the others, it's not even in the ranks. And with that, I think it just about explains that the 90s is overall a really good decade, leaving us with the 2000s and the 2020s. My initial gut response was to instantly put the 2020s as the worst. Just like Nickelodeon and the rest of the world, it seems like the only thing media thrives on right now is reboots. Nothing is original, and we're in a bit of a dark age, I think. Reboots aren't necessarily a bad thing, just typically it's either watered down or flat out bad. We Baby Bears, a prequel to We Bare Bears, isn't awful. There's Tiny Toons Looniversity and the Total Drama Island reboot, Jessica's Big Little World, a spin-off of Craig of the Creek, along with the revival of Totally Spies. Soon to be coming out is the second Powerpuff Girls reboot. It's now been rebooted twice. There's a Gumball reboot, a Regular Show reboot, and 2 Adventure Time reboots all in the works. They all might be great. The 2 times they have brought Adventure Time back, both Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake, albeit not on Cartoon Network, they were great, so I have no doubt these ones will be as well. But either way, they're not even out yet. Beyond those, there are only 7. 7. Halfway into the decade, and there's 7. Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, 7. Coming off of 2 decades with like 30 new shows, they can only muster up 7? Just that might be enough to call it the worst era. I have not seen much of these shows, but I have definitely watched enough. I don't think you have to watch the complete series to have an opinion on it. Elliot from Earth and the Fungies are bland, but okay enough to watch. Prince Ivandoe is a standout in this decade, nice characters, and the animation is really fun like Gumball, leaving Tig and Seek and Ianu. Tig and Seek is like a rice cake. No one is eating it for pleasure. It's very kiddie feeling, and just, I don't know, where's the enjoyment from this? Is anyone laughing at it? I don't really like criticizing because a lot of people worked hard on this, but I do not like this. And for Ianu, I watched half of the first episode when it came out a few months back. It's just not my thing at all. It has some promising world building, but I do not like the animation style, and the overall premise doesn't really pique my interest. But ultimately, the show just came out, so it could end up being a positive for this decade. But there's something even worse than Tig and Seek, Cartoonito. The Nick Jr. for Cartoon Network. Do we really need baby shows for toddlers? Are they not satiated with the shows for 8-year-olds? I don't know the research, but I think they'd be chill with it. The subchannel Cartoonito came out in 2021 and already ended this year. It has your run-of-the-mill kid shows, Bugs Bunny Builders, taking the Looney Tunes cast and making them construction workers. Bat Wheels, it's like the Cars movie, but switch the characters to DC. I caught like 3 minutes of an episode of this once, like 2 months ago. Oddly enough, in my grandma and grandpa's house, and there was no one in that house that is even remotely close to target audience. So I kind of question why that was on. The bit I did catch was very, it sort of rubbed me the wrong way. These shows are supposed to actually teach something or give a lesson about friendship and caring and X, Y, and Z. But this episode had a specific political agenda. It was just blatant, and I don't think it's the place for that. At some point, isn't that considered indoctrination? Barney gets an animated show, and he doesn't look the best. And then there's some others. Lou and the Bally Bunch, Silly Sundays, Let's Go Bananas, and Dylan's Playtime Adventures. Supposedly there's 3 more shows slated to release, despite the channel's death. Unlimited Squirrels, Barbara, and Foster's Fun Time for Imaginary Friends. Really? Have to bring this back to? Foster's was immaculate. Leave it be. There is no need to make it a husk for a preschool show. Very mid shows this decade, and nothing is really memorable. My argument for the 2010s is that there are a lot of bad shows, but the good ones are so good that it completely outweighs the bad. Using that argument here certainly poises this decade to be crowned the worst, because there's 1, 2, maybe 3-ish shows that are good, but not even that great, and there's quite a lot that's pretty bad, including Cartoonito with that. It's not a full decade, so I guess that's the one crutch I'm giving it. Is it en route to be the worst? Precisely. But I might as well give it its time to save itself before I stamp it and notarize it. Leaving only the 2000s. But hang on, put the pitchforks down for a second, close the pillory, just hang on. This decade has 26 cartoons, according to my count, which could be a little wrong. It doesn't include acquired shows like any of the DC or Scooby shows. Including those wouldn't really change my overall answer. This era undoubtedly has amazing shows. Samurai Jack, Codename Kids Next Door, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and Ben 10. There's more in my opinion, but I think unanimously everyone would agree those are the peak of this era. It doesn't require much deliberation. Then there's like a second tier of shows that, based on my own personal experience and general consensus online, teeter one way or the other. 50% love it, 50% hate it. Chowder and the Misadventures of Flapjack. These shows are held in quite a high regard to tons of people. In their very much uniqueness, it made them acquired tastes. Personally, I greatly enjoyed Chowder's wackiness, but did not like the darkness of Flapjack. There's 2 shows that I would put up in the second tier of great, but online it's about 75 negative, 25 positive. And so I refuse to let my conclusion of what is the worst era to be biased. Camp Lazlo and My Gym Partner's a Monkey, both I think are overhated, but some criticism is just. Annoying protagonist that is rather rude to a lot of characters, very few female characters, and some reliance on poop humor. I agree to most of that to an extent for Gym Partner, but Camp Lazlo is very reminiscent of SpongeBob to me. Not the good seasons, absolutely not, but the 2010 seasons. I have to wedge in Star Wars Clone Wars. This is a hard one to judge. For me personally, awesome, great, not as great as the second show, all the above, you get it. But that comes from an avid Star Wars fan. I'm not sure how well this fares to someone who isn't a fan. I would imagine it would feel like your typical action, good guy versus bad guy show, but still no matter what side you're on, the characters and episodes are still great. Mediocre shows of the era are Sheep in the Big City, Time Squad, Hero 108, and Chopsaki Chooks. Sheep in the Big City has a fun premise that he is needed for a military weapon. The animation offers something different, and I think the humor is great. Time Squad was another really fun show, better than some, not others. It could have had more of an impression on Cartoon Network had they not been mysteriously canceled after making fun of a certain president. Hero 108 has a distinct art style and fun but lazy world building. Another plus is it has Mystique Sonia. But it is the same every episode. It's not atrocious, but very repetitive. Also, you should check out my video on it. And Chopsaki Chooks. Moving on. The bad shows. Whatever happened to Robot Jones? I don't know what happened to him, but he sucks. It's a slice of life show, which I have a record of not liking, but the usual human protagonist is now a robot. I just don't think people wanted to watch a robot boy struggle in the human world. Speaking of robot boy. Now I don't know what the online consensus of this one is. This is my opinion. But why watch this when you can watch My Life as a Teenage Robot? Squirrel Boy, same thing as Robot Jones. A slice of life, but the boy is friends with the squirrel. Evil Con Carne, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy's lesser half. The Cramp Twins, slice of life again, but I'm not the only one that doesn't like it, everyone else does too. The Life and Times of Juniper Lee, Megas XLR, Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi, Class of 3000, just forgettable. The absolute last resort. You had to be desperate to turn these on. Okay, I'm being a little melodramatic, but there's a reason some of you watching are just now learning about these shows for the first time. There's a show worse than them all. Johnny Test. Let me just beat the dead horse a little bit more. I don't hate it as much as everyone else. I have probably seen only about half of the episodes, but it's really just generic, unfunny, and annoying. Comparing somewhat similar shows like Dexter's Lab and Phineas and Ferb, they just do the theme so much better. What is absolutely bonkers to me, completely hornswoggles me, discombobulating, disconcerting, bemusing, unfathomable, labyrinthine. I've exhausted my confused synonyms. It's astonishing that this got a reboot on Netflix just a few years ago. That's insane. The final nail in the coffin for this era, solidifying my point as the worst, the live action shows. Live action on Cartoon Network. 9 live action shows released in the last 3 years of the decade, and almost every single one ended just months after release. Bobby Says, August 2007 to September 2007. Rinse and repeat with all the others. The Othersiders, Brain Rush, Dude, What Would Happen? That's a longer one, running for 37 episodes. Tower Prep, Level Up, Destroy, Build, Destroy, where they actually just destroy stuff. Incredible Crew. And finally, Out of Jimmy's Head, a mix of live action and cartoon. Cartoon Network is sacrosanct. Don't put live action on it. I don't know how they got approved, especially considering what the shows are. Perhaps it was to compete with competition. When you factor it all together, not the best shows competing with the good ones 3-1, along with the failed live action shows, coupled with the fact that the previous decade, and especially the following decade, are better, I can say the 2000s is the worst era of Cartoon Network. The narrative of this video sort of made it sound like this era sucked. It really didn't. It's not even that bad. The standouts were great. There is just a lot of blubber, and that blubber sucks. Anyway, video's over. But I do need to say a big thank you to everyone who has ever watched my videos, everyone who has ever subscribed, interacted, continued to watch, liked, left a comment, sometimes, occasionally negative. Not really. But thank you to all of you. This video marks 1 full year of being monetized on YouTube. 1 year and a day ago, July 7th, 2024, my subscriber count was in the 800s. I'm literally so close to 1,000 subscribers. And now it's almost 160,000. That's 200 times 800. So thank you all.